Blacks in Technology.
Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology.
Welcome everybody to the 108th episode of the Blacks in Technology Big Tech Talk podcast. We're at 108. Man, can you believe that? If this is your first time checking out the podcast, you can check us out, Blacks in Technology, at www.blacksintechnology.net. We are also on the Twitters, and we are at Black in Technology. That's BLKINTECHNOLOGY. We're also on Facebook, so facebook.com/Blacks in Technology. Also on Instagram under Blacks in Technology. We have a LinkedIn group, Blacks in Technology as well. And if you are into Slack, check us out on Slack. Just go to our homepage on the blacksintechnology.net website. And at the bottom, you'll find a link for the Slack invite. We are close to 1,200 members of our Slack group, so it's pretty jumping in there. So you definitely want to head on over to the blacksintechnology.net site and participate in the Slack channel. If you're on Twitter right now, you have any questions for our guests, you can tweet them using the hashtag BitTechTalk, BITTECHTALK. Who are we? Who is Blacks in Technology? So we're a tech-focused community and media organization. We're focused on increasing the number of Black men and women in technology through increased visibility and participation. We always focus on forming new partnerships and opportunities to assist our members with their continued professional growth and development. So if you want to partner with us, send us an email to contact us at blacksintechnology.net. So before we get on with the show, with the Q&A with our guests, I do want to take a couple of minutes to say our thoughts and prayers are with the city of Houston. This is a pretty catastrophic event that's happening down there. So we have quite a few BIT members in Texas and in the city of Houston and surrounding cities. So we want to send our thoughts to them and their families and everyone else that's affected and stay safe as possible. So I'm really excited about tonight's podcast. It's August 31st, 2017, and we are heading into the month of fall. And what better way to bring in to kick off this we've been kind of on a little hiatus. We haven't done a podcast in a few months. So what better way to kick this off than to head into the season of change by talking to the co-founder of Change Catalyst, Wayne Sutton. Wayne Sutton, he's a serial entrepreneur, co-founder of Change Catalyst and its tech inclusion programs. So Wayne is a leading voice, one of the leading voices in diversity and inclusion in technology. So I definitely want to welcome Wayne to the show. Wayne, great to have you.
Hey, Greg, thanks for having me.
No problem. Good
to be here.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We're just going to jump right into Q&A. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you're from.
Yeah, most definitely. And before we get started, I agree. Thoughts goes out to everyone in Houston, dealing with the challenges down there, and hope everyone's safe and taking care of themselves, and just also with everyone, especially Black people right now in the American world, like keep your head up, we're stronger together, and just one day at a time, self-care one day at a time.
Definitely, most definitely.
So I like to say I'm a geek, I'm a nerd, always aspiring to be an entrepreneur. I am an entrepreneur, but originally from a small town called Teachee, North Carolina. Population, I think it's 300 now, but it's in the south, near the coast. It's, I'm not trying to show my age here, but I grew up farming, man. I grew up, farming, but also with a passion for design and art, and that eventually led me to technology,
Excellent. So, and people, we still farm nowadays, so that doesn't show your age, man. But there's a lot of people that still farm nowadays. Not me,
Yeah,
but you
I
know,
should go
there are people
like we
out
were.
there. Right, right.
True,
So
true. Yeah, but
tell us a little bit about how you got interested in tech.
yeah. So, like I said, I was in the art. Like, you know how everybody, most entrepreneurs have this story how like they sold lemonade or or did a lot of side hustles as a kid, and that they knew they want to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
For me, my path to technology and entrepreneurship are aligned. I was my hustle in school, and when I wasn't farming, was I used to draw on people's clothes. I used to do the graffiti art, and I
Nice.
remember back in the day where you like it was cool. Where you had one of your pants leg, all these like logos and graffiti on it.
Oh
And I
yeah.
used to draw Mario character, Mario like Super Mario 2 or 3, I believe, on people's clothes in high school, paying like $20 a leg. And that was one of my that was like my entrepreneurship thing as a kid. And so I used to like to draw, and that eventually got me into graphic design. And in high school, I took 2 art classes, and then I took 2 typing 1, typing 2 classes. You know, now I'm showing my age, like pre mainstream computer, and
Right.
and we were taking typing classes.
Yeah.
But we got our first computer in art class.
Hey,
And I just
these
like
young people
grabbed,
don't know about that, man. They don't know about
yeah, I
typewriters.
know. I know, right? And I did also take computer class in high school with the floppy drive and all that, and and I in art class though I gravitated towards the computer, like drawing, making animations, and that just like was a thing to me. It was like I was fascinated about it, and I just want to continue to create different designs and art on the computer, and from there. I went to essentially like almost like a code school now, but it's focused on computer graphic design for 1 year in Raleigh, North Carolina, and then got a job after that at a newspaper in Jacksonville, North Carolina, doing computer graphic design. I did that for about 2 years, which led me to IT. And then so I was a network admin at the newspaper for 2 years, then I eventually moved to research to Raleigh, North Carolina, and back to Raleigh. And worked your research triangle part at an interactive agency on and off for about 8 years in the first .com bubble and a little bit afterwards, and did everything from installing routers, setting up web servers, had my own web hosting company at one point, doing web development. But I was just gravitated towards the emergence of how the internet would change our communication, relationships, and communities, in addition to how we can create businesses using technology.
Very, very interesting. You know what? I always love hearing people's background, especially when it comes to knowing that other people came from more of a creative side before they actually got into tech. You know, I talk to people all the time, and you'd be fascinated at hearing that, you know, not everyone grew up, you know, from 9 years old coding. Like some of these people had kind of an alternate avenue before they actually got into tech. And I think that's important to hear that story, especially coming from another African American, because then that kind of sets that tone for our younger generation as well, that, hey, you can do other things. You can, you know, do music if you want to. You can do art. You can play the sports, but there's still room for you in technology as well. So thanks for sharing that. Definitely love that.
Yeah. Agreed. Now I would like to say there's two more important pieces to my path to technology as well.
Okay.
One is my mom. So my mom used to work for HUD early in her career, and now she's an entrepreneur. Had her own business in North Carolina for like the past 10 or 15 years. But doing it for a while when she used to work for the HUD and in the government, they went through a furlough, right? They say, all right, you know, we can't really pay anyone right now. And being that she worked for the government, she knew that she needed to continue to work for the people. And so she actually brought the computer home, like Windows 3.1, and brought it home and continued to do work. And as a kid, you know, we had a common before we played video games. But when we get that first PC in the house, that was influential in me, like also gravitating towards computers and technology. It would break, I would take it apart and get mad and put it back together, put the RAM in and everything, install hard drives, And so that was important. Then the other part was important was my relationship with my father. We did outdoor sports like well, like not say everybody, but a lot of kids do with their father, sons with their fathers. But also, my father was a truck driver. He went to school, and after what people say in his later age, for a degree in electrical engineering and auto mechanics. And so we used to do everything from taking transmission out of the car to like racing go-karts, building the engines. So I feel like that taught me not be afraid to get my hands dirty. Of course, working on a farm too, but not to get my hands dirty and learn how to take things and put them back together. And so it was those two characteristics I feel like helped shape me also.
Big ups to mom and pops, man. That is what's funny is I don't have the exact same story, but my mom back in the day, she attended school for accounting, and for some reason they made her take a basic programming class, and it was that basic program. She bought a book home, and I never forget that book had a light blue. It was a small, tiny book, a light blue cover, and that is kind of what led me on the path. I wasn't like fully immersed in it. Like, my dad, big ups to him. He bought me a Commodore 16 for Christmas, and then I coupled that with my mom's basic programming book, and from there is kind of where I caught the bug. But my dad, he wasn't into computers, but he's a huge my dad was one of those jack of all trades type people. He could do electrical work, do plumbing, do carpentry, like all those skills that I don't have nowadays. he did that, but that kind of analytical mindset, that type of thinking, I got that from him. But I hate doing anything. I'll call a professional in a second. So.
But those things are important because, like, we look at now how, and this is even how it affects the tech industry. We look at how the tech industry is so elitist and biased on like these Ivy League schools and to quantify and qualify people in terms of they have the competence to do certain jobs.
Right.
Well, early on in tech, like we old enough to remember, like when we was first building websites, when doing the first .com boom, we was first doing building apps and platforms, even early in the iOS and the mobile app days. It wasn't about what school you went to. It was about could you do the job, and then you had enough passion, desire to learn and do a skill. Like our parents, they did side hustles in carpentry and accounting and you name it.
Right.
They didn't go to school for some of that. They just did it and learned it.
Right.
And it was about business and people. So I feel we have to get back to that though, but that's for another conversation.
Yeah. Right. I agree though. But let's move on. Let's start talking about, you were telling us you were creative, you were into art, but you're also, you started Social Wayne, socialwayne.com blog, and you had you kind of displayed your passion for writing about tech, right? Tell us, kind of where that passion came from and how that blog has evolved over the years.
Yeah. Thanks for asking about that. I'm talking about my blog that often these days with Medium and all these other platforms, but early on, like my blog was like a catalyst that really helped my brand, helped me build relationships with other like-minded individuals, help create opportunities, wealthy opportunities, travel opportunities for me, all because of my blog, partnership opportunities, because it was writing on socialwayne.com. And for me, so it kind of goes to it was the next phase of my tech career and my entrepreneurship journey was being a guy that was in IT, a person that was in IT. So I knew about web servers and RSS feeds, saw the emergence of Web 1.0 to go to Web 2.0 and how you can, you want to get content anywhere and accessible in any format. And so RSS feeds was a way of doing that through blogs. And I remember watching Gizmodo launch. I remember when Pete Cashmore launched Massbar. I remember Michael Arrington launched TechCrunch.com. I remember when Engadget first launched and all those blogs, and me being a geek and nerd, I was reading all these blogs on the West Coast and in New York, and I'm just like, this is awesome, right? I'm learning so much, but I'm also reading about the stories. And so I set up my blog. And Social Wayne, probably the second or third blog I set up, was the one I stuck with. I set up a blog one time before that, just covering tech news. I was in North Carolina, and nobody cared about what was coming out of North Carolina, right? And I think I created a sports blog one time. But then at the beginning of the Web 2 era, I start seeing how social networks was going to play a role into big businesses, local communities, larger communities, partnerships and opportunities. So I created socialwayne.com, and this was before I embraced my introvertness. And so I was like, I'm going to be social. So I was mostly social online. I saw Twitter launch. I'm one of the first 1,000 users to join Twitter. So I was talking about social media. I was talking about these social platforms. I was telling the story how to use these platforms to create communities, and also how businesses can use these platforms. In addition to that, I also knew the power of telling stories of other individuals, especially minority individuals, Black individuals, Latino, LGBT individuals.
Right.
And also being in tech the whole while, I was like, I don't see stories of other entrepreneurs who look like me. I don't see stories like this. Is before podcasting really even existed. I was like, I could name on my hand the 5 or 6 or underrepresented entrepreneurs that who on most of the East Coast that you can just name on top of your head. Silicon Valley, like I've learned now since being in the Bay Area, there's tons out here, but nobody was telling those stories of those individuals. I didn't know about Ken Coleman and other individuals till I got out here. Like nobody was writing about these other like early underrepresented individuals who work at HP, who was helping create Silicon Valley. And so I feel like it was part of my responsibility, being a guy in tech, being a person in tech, to write about underrepresented entrepreneurs and telling the stories. And so over the years, it's gone from writing about social media to writing about entrepreneurship, writing about venture capital, sharing my personal experiences about opportunities I've had, from opportunity to go to the red carpet at the Oscars in LA. And so that was a unique opportunity because I was blogging and was telling stories. Grew up in South. I'm a NASCAR fan. Got a chance to drive a car on a NASCAR track. Partnered with brands, Ford, Pepsi, some other big brands over the years, and Google's and those. Because I was telling stories and I created a presence through my blog, it allowed me to have relationships with companies and individuals I never thought that I would over the years.
Excellent. And what I love about what you just said is what I think, a lot of people, especially people that are new to the industry and that are coming up, is what you mentioned about expanding your brand, right? It's coincidental that you say that because when I first found Blacks in Technology, a lot of people don't know it didn't start off as this community site. It started out as a blog, a WordPress blog hosted on WordPress site, and it was just blogging about my everyday experiences, working in tech, the things that I was doing. I wanted to make a name for Blacks in Technology, and I wanted that to kind of be the forefront. I didn't necessarily want the spotlight on me. I just wanted the name out there so people can pay attention to what we are doing in technology and that we are here in this space as well. And you're right, that led to, partnership opportunities, that led to traveling opportunities. So that's something for people who are on the fence maybe about starting a blog. Definitely do it. For one, we need more Black men and women writing blogs, right? Especially in tech. So we need that exposure. We need that presence. And then it brings all those other opportunities, like you said, partnership opportunities, traveling opportunities. So I think that's real important. Excellent.
Yeah. And 2 quick things on that is something I've learned over the years, and Greg, is that especially for us, Black people, if we don't tell our story, who will, right?
Yes.
And then if we don't tell our story, someone's going to tell our story for us, and they're going to tell it their way. I don't want to get into political, talking about the history of America and all of that. But, you know, I've been traveling out of the country the past couple of years, and what I've learned and really has started to see is that the story that we've been told has been the stories of the people who have won the wars.
Yes.
That doesn't make it the right story or the true story, but it's a story for the people who have won the wars. And we know, especially in America, that the people who have won the wars often hasn't been us. There's only one or two that have been beneficial to us, you know what I mean? But outside of that, it hasn't been us. So we have to tell our story. We have to tell our story. And then the second point, right quick, is that it's so easy now to tell your story on so many platforms.
Yes. Yes.
So just do it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100,000%. It's something I've been trying to preach for a long time, especially about telling our story. I mean, and you hit the nail on the head. If you don't tell your own story, you leave it up to somebody else to tell it, and they might not be nearly as favorable. And you know, and the other point that you made is, you know, it's just 100% true about that as well. So yeah, we're definitely on the same page, man. Thanks for saying that. So a lot of people, they recognize you. They heard of your name. You're from CNN Black in America 4 show. You done Numi Accelerator. Tell us kind of what you learned from those experiences and how they changed your perspective about tech, if they did so. If they changed.
Yeah. So. No, it most definitely did. So the Numi Accelerator, that's a project that Angela Bitton and I, we set out. Both of us were in North Carolina at the time, and we both had startups, and we both were looking for opportunities to learn and grow and get out of North Carolina and see what all the hype was about Silicon Valley. And it's one of the things where we didn't know what we were doing, but we just did it, right? We took a risk.
Right.
And we created the very first incubator accelerator for underrepresented entrepreneurs in the world and in Silicon Valley. And at first we were embraced, like, wow, these two from North Carolina come out here and do this program. But at the same time, we also realized that everybody was not ready to have this conversation around lack of diversity at that time in 2011, just around underrepresented entrepreneurs and venture capital, angel investment. Like, the data came out that less than 1% of Black and Latino individuals receive venture capital angel funding. That was in 2011. And that data was skewed because they actually grouped African American Latinos together. So it was actually less than 1%. And so we didn't know how hard it was going to be. And you also got to realize that at that time, the tech industry was primarily shouting from whoever would listen that, we are meritocracy. And we know it wasn't, but we didn't know how bad it was. And so we did the program, we got on CNN, and we also learned more about how big media works. I'm super grateful, I always be grateful for the opportunity that Soledad O'Brien and Jason Samuels and the CNN staff provided to us. But we also learned that there's a huge disconnect between how New York and the East Coast perceived technology in Silicon Valley and how Silicon Valley likes to see themselves, right? And so at the time, the media, CNN was like, well, people watch brown people, Black people on TV talking about building a tech company, where people be interested in seeing people pitch about startups, where people people want to watch you on coding and learn about your meetings and get feedback on your product and what challenge you have. And we were like, yes, that's what people need to see that.
Yeah.
People need to see, our real challenges that we're facing and going into meetings and how we're taking their feedback and how we're giving feedback to one another, how to create a better product for all the companies we were building. And it was 8 of us in one house. And Angela and I was managing the program. We were like setting up meetings with investors, we like partner meetings, and with bringing everybody from Tristan Walker to Mitch Kapor, meetings at Google and Facebook, and doing tours, and you name it. We was running it. Yeah. And CNN felt like they needed to tell a story more of a reality show. And they did that. And it wasn't received as well, but the impact, it wasn't received as well from Silicon Valley. They hated that. And I get why now. Right. But the impact on the documentary was priceless. I was just in Nashville, Tennessee, doing Tech Inclusion Summit there. And this is now some 5-6 years later from that CNN documentary. And there's an African-American gentleman who has a podcast now in Nashville, Tennessee, at a startup who told me just 2 days ago, he saw the documentary, and now because of that, he's doing technology. He's in tech.
Ain't that great, man?
And it's not about me, but it's about the risk that we all took.
Yeah.
And it's about the risk that people who saw the documentary are taking, who are like, oh, that's an opportunity for me. That's a career path. That's something that I thought I was interested in, but I didn't know anybody who looked like me. So I see them, so I can do it too. It's about the next generation.
Yeah.
It's about inspiring others. And so the opportunity, the impact from that documentary is priceless, right? Like you didn't see Black people on TV talking about doing a tech startup before 2011. And there's this huge disconnect in terms of the education and business opportunity and the wealth generation that happens in Silicon Valley, in the Bay Area, that hasn't really been like a door was open for us that was welcome, that we really knew about on a mainstream level before that CNN documentary.
Yep.
Right? Because like some of what people were saying, it was funny. I had a conversation with people a couple of years ago, is that we got criticism from like Black people saying, "Why are you all going out there asking white people for money?" And like that's not like I understand your criticism, but there's some level of naiveness in your comment. But that's how business works out here.
Gotcha.
And so the impact for that and your perceptions and everything has changed so much since then. I used to be the guy in North Carolina, right? Just a nerd. I used to read all the blogs. I used to really put the Bay Area and Silicon Valley on a pedestal. I was like, wow, there's so many smart people out here. Like, used to like, like really look up and like modify these role models, these examples, these like, the Mark Zuckerberg, Jack Dorsey, used to build, like these famous people.
Right.
But it's just like you and me, man. It's just like you and me. They're people, they're humans. Like, some of these engineers, these product managers, the CTOs, like, these are people who just had a different opportunity, different roadmap from us. They may spend more time, in some cases, in their skills, to learn this particular skill.
Right.
But they're not, a lot of them, not all, but a lot of them not worried about family and keeping lights on. They just focus on coding and one skill, right? They're not worried about walking down the street getting shot. They're not worrying about, friends and family rounds. They're not worrying about, what people are saying about, getting education because you don't know if it's going to work out for you, right?
Right.
And so the tech industry, it really opened my eyes in terms of like how it's a privileged industry, but also how the tech industry is perceived as like people with these godlike superpowers to build products for the world because they're the smartest people. That's not just the case. Just people who with a different opportunity in an ecosystem and culture that has been cultivated over years to create a system that works for them off of capitalism and opportunity.
Right.
And I have a good colleague named T.D. Lowe. She reminded me a couple of years ago, she said, Wayne, you gotta realize that when the tech industry was making billions, $1 trillion off of working with the government, Silicon Valley 101, like contracts and microchips and silicon chips, right?
Yeah, yep.
Black people were fighting for civil rights. And we've been playing catch up since then.
Yeah. What did Nas say?
So What? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Nas
So
said
once I
the
got
weird.
out here, it really opened my eyes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Now you.
No, I was saying that. I mean, you're 100% right. I mean, there's a quote from Nas off of one of his songs. I'm a huge hip hop fan, by the way, and he said that black people are the teenagers of America, and he meant that in a totally metaphorical way, but where everyone else, white people are. And this is not in a maturity way. This is as far as coming up in this country. They've had the opportunities because they built the infrastructure. And I'm not talking about with their hands, but they built the institution to benefit them, right? And so we're just now coming up and getting our hands into it. So we're the teenagers right now of America, and we're doing extraordinary things, like things that if you've seen a teenager doing, you'd be like, that teenager is gifted, because given all the oppression, given all the obstacles, given everything that that's been thrown at us, to see where we are, and don't get me wrong, there's still a ways to go, but to see what we've done and what we've accomplished, given those obstacles, given those hardships and those atrocities that's been done to us, man, that's anything short of miraculous, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I agree. In alignment with that comment, also what came out here and changed my perspective was how many successful Black people, men and women, are in Silicon Valley and San Francisco, the Bay Area, that we just didn't know about. I didn't know about, right? Like you said, going back to telling the story, their story wasn't being told.
Right.
Like, last 4 or 5 years since I came out here, and we started having more impact on this conversation around diversity and inclusion. We're now starting to celebrate some of these individuals.
Yes.
Roy Clark, Ken Coleman, Shelley Archibald, right?
Yeah.
Shelley's on the board of Verizon, CEO of MetroStream, a system, that a company that is making $1 billion. That Netflix, is using her company services. There's all these amazing people. Lisa Lambert. People been out here for years.
Yeah.
Successful African American people. And so I've been fortunate over my time just to have, meet several of these individuals. David Drummond, feel like if there's anything that come out of this podcast, if there's a Black person in this podcast and you don't know who David Drummond is, please Google David Drummond and know who the man is.
Yep.
And I'm not even going to go into detail about that, but you should know who he is if you listen to this podcast.
Definitely.
Yeah. And it's like we have to know who these people are. We have to tell their story.
Yeah, and once again, I mean, and that's kind of, I'm not going to say kind of, that's what we aim to do and what we've been doing over the years here at Blacks in Technology, and you've been doing at socialwayne.com and giving people a platform through your programs like Tuck Inclusion, and what's something that I keyed in on what you were talking about is the young gentleman out of Tennessee that came up to you. There's times where this thing is hard, and I'm pretty sure you can vouch for that. But fighting this battle, having this crusade day in and day out, is tough. And there's been times, and I'll be honest, where I've just said, let me just walk away from this, and not just not get rid of Blacks in Technology as an organization, but just saying, this has consumed a number of years of my life. Let me just push. But it's stories like that come from the community, like that young man who came up to you and said, "Hey, your blog is set me on a path in tech. Is what keeps me going. all the time. You know, there's people that come out of the community, and it might not even be a success story, right? It might just be a beginning of a story. Like, hey, you really inspired me to do this, or hey, I need your help with this. This is going to, and then out of that may come a job or something like that. It's those types of stories that makes you know that A, you're doing the right thing, and B, you need to continue doing it. So, I agree with you 100%. It's this journey is tough. It's hard. A lot of people don't see the behind the scenes work that, you and I and others have to go through. And some people may think that that we do it for certain reasons, right? But it's all for the community. It's all for Black men and women across this nation. And yeah, I applaud you for doing your part in this entire thing as well.
Yeah, thank you, and proud of you too, man. Like we know each other for years, and sorry for that. We just now doing this show. You know what I mean? But yeah, man. Like we yeah.
It was bound to happen, man.
And
right.
Yeah, but like great work that you're doing, right? And people don't realize like if we had 10 more Blacks in technology communities, it still wouldn't be enough to where how far we need to catch up and grow.
Right.
And we need to just and also what you say, like people don't know how this works. This work is emotional. This work is draining. This work is challenging. And early in the internet days, you need to have thick skin. You have thick skin when you're on the internet. People can say anything. It's like, no, now you need thick skin. You need a therapist. You need a gym coach. You need what else? You need recreation time. You need vacation time, and you need sometimes your own internet police kind of shield protect you from everything that's going on. So this work is serious.
Yeah.
Right, and it's emotional, right? Like I meditate daily. I've been in and out of depression. I don't talk about much publicly, but I'm being fully transparent. I have a therapist, and you need that these days, and especially in the Black community, we don't talk about that stuff. We don't talk about this stuff. There's so many stereotypes. That, especially Black men, that we weak, we're this or that. No, we human.
Yeah.
We people.
Yeah.
I was at a cafe this morning before I came into the office. I just went to get a protein bar. I see a police officer walk behind me. I'm jumping. I'm looking around. I'm like, hey.
Yeah,
what are you doing?
Right. A good friend of mine.
And it's just real. Yeah.
A good friend of mine told me that every Black man and woman in this country suffers from PTSD. She said that's real.
Yeah.
We all suffer from PTSD because of what we have to go through day in and day out as Black men and women. And couple that with doing something like this for the tech community. Hey, I feel you 100%. I already know. So and trying to do it with an inclusive mindset. Yeah.
And I'm in an interracial relationship. This is not easy. This is not easy. And I'm just being real. And but we do it because we know there's a need for it, and we love our people, man.
Yeah.
Like we have to do it out of a place of love, out of a place of I have a 6-year-old son, and I know the sacrifices I'm making it, and I don't want him to go through the same experiences that I have to go through. And at the same time, I want to be in a position to create generational wealth.
Yep.
Right? They're doing it out here. They're doing it. Other people are doing it. Why can't we?
I agree. Yeah, I tell people all the time, especially when I talk to other folks about BIT, and I tell them this, and then they kind of look at me funny. But I'm 100% dead serious when I say it. I tell them BIT exists so that we don't have to exist. I don't want this to be a need 10, 15, 20 years from now, right? Like when my son gets this age, or not my age, but just older, right? Like I don't want him to have to, I don't want to have to, for him to have to deal with the things that we are dealing with on a day to day. Like that's why, you know, BIT exists. So later on, this is not an issue. This is not a problem. So let's
I want my son to be able to come to love.
Say that again.
Go ahead. Now I want my son to be able to come to me and be like, I have an idea for a startup. I want to build my company, and I want some seed capital, or I just want a little bit of investment, and I want him to say, here's $100,000.
Yeah.
Go test out your hypothesis. If it works, great. If it don't, we're gonna be okay.
Right. The same comfort that that others have.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about. I know you were. I don't know if you're still actively doing Build Up, but can you tell us just a little bit about what Build Up is, what its purpose was, and kind of what its impact was?
Yeah. So I was in a transition phase in my life. You know, I had left a startup that I was working at. A lot of people don't know the event-based platform that I was working at. It was a small team, about four of us in San Francisco. We were trying to compete with Eventbrite. This is about 2012, I think, 2013. Raised some angel capital, but it just, you know, we just wasn't right at the time. It wasn't right for us to have the right team. And so we're doing that, and I had left New Me earlier, and I had did another startup after that called Pitch 2, because I saw the need to help build relationships with investors and entrepreneurs to give them real feedback, because entrepreneurs would investors were like, oh, no, I'm not investing right now with some BS excuse.
Right. And
I was like, well, if I can build a platform to help give real feedback in a non-biased way that will actually help entrepreneurs and build relationships with investors, that could be useful. So I did that, raised some angel capital, and through that, I just kept meeting a lot of investors, and also kept meeting with a lot of underrepresented entrepreneurs, and like they need so much help. And the help is not that they're so far behind, because like, you know, you'll get the question like, where are you going to find great underrepresented entrepreneurs? Like, they're out there, they're awesome, and you just may not have a relationship with them. Mm-hmm. And so, but a lot of underrepresented entrepreneurs, especially if they don't come from the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, are not accustomed to the language that investors and in the entrepreneurship ecosystem out here use. They're not, and then also it's also really based on relationships and access. So again, I'm not talking about quality. They're great. They're awesome. They're great businesses. Should be funded. Right. I'm talking about just used to the culture, aware of the culture, aware of some of the language, and relationships. And so I saw the need. One, I wanted to create a venture fund, and two, I wanted to create another accelerator fellows program to help fast track early stage, pre-seed, underrepresented entrepreneurs, and that was the mission behind Build Up. But I learned so much through that process. I learned, one, I wasn't ready to raise a fund. I'm gonna write about this one day, and there's so many reasons. Like, I wasn't confident enough to raise a fund. You really need, if you're a first-time fundraiser, you really need 1 or 2 full years of runway of capital to live off of. So you're not working, you're just you're fundraising. I really needed about 1 or 2 years. I didn't have that, and I built a team with skill sets that I didn't have. Credible, 2 great African American women. One did M&A investments for about 9 years. Another was an investment banker. We had a great team. And we decided to do this fellows program, set out to raise a fund also. And we did a lot of events in the Bay Area, building my brand. And we ended up doing a fellows program where we accepted 6 underrepresented entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. And we put them through a 2-week program. We were focused on pre-seed, early stage entrepreneurs. So we wanted them to come through our 2-week program, our course, our curriculum, our connect them with investors in the ecosystem, and then help them get on to get accepted into other incubators and accelerators, or raise additional capital. That was our focus. So out of the 6, 5 went on to raise $1 million or more, or get accepted to another incubator and accelerator and sell their company for $1 million. So it was a great, successful program. But at the same time, also, tech companies released their diversity numbers in 2014, and it really, after that, changed everything. Then people were like, "Oh, who was that black guy talking about diversity and inclusion a couple of years ago? Oh, it's Wayne. You used to do this work. You talking about this? You know what he's doing?" So it started getting invited to all these round tables. They invite all the events and with people from the White House under the President Obama administration. Have to put a disclaimer in now. And so partnered with Melinda Epler, my partner and co-founder of Change Catalyst. So I decided to leave Build Up, and my partners put that on hold and joined Change Catalyst, and we started doing the Tech Inclusion Conference.
Excellent. And you know, I love what you said about, you know, giving people, really giving people this access, right? And it's I have a kind of phrase that I use, that the opportunities are only as good as those people that can take advantage of it. And you know what I mean by that is those opportunities. We know that they're out there. It's one thing to see them, and one thing to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. And it sounds like what you were doing with Build Up is that you were showing people how to take advantage of those opportunities that are out there. You know, teaching them the lingo, you know, showing them how to network, that you know, those types of things to put them in a better position to raise money.
Yeah, but the good and bad part about that is most of those entrepreneurs, they didn't need that much help. They really did. They were great entrepreneurs.
Right.
The biggest thing about that, it wasn't that they needed that much help. It was that the tech ecosystem needed another relationship filter to accept them. That's what that was about, right? Gotcha. If they would have just come out on their own, they may or may not got into some of the doors that we were able to leverage because we did the program. But because we've been out here and we have these leverage relationships, like people from Techstars, from founding startups, from Google Ventures to, you know, other corporate accelerators, to different investors, because we have been out here and built this network, they trusted us to bring them, you know, good entrepreneurs, good companies to work with. Now, would they accept those meetings and came to demo day, and you know, without that program?
Right.
My hypothesis is probably not. But once you get out here, you start understanding, like, okay, it's a culture system, just like in the NBA. I don't like doing sports analogy, but just like in the NBA, there's an AAU system that starts in high school or from kindergarten, you know, and there's a system. So if you want to get in the door, you got to go through the system. So just like that, there's a system out here, and that's kind of what it takes.
Excellent. So let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about Change Catalyst and you know, the Tech Inclusion Program. The diversity and inclusion in tech discussion, you know, very important. If anybody is, you know, not living under a rock, then I'm pretty sure you've heard the discussion about diversity in tech. So tell us a little bit about, you know, how your programs, you know, tell us first. Let everyone know what Change Catalyst, or who Change Catalyst is, or what you all do, and then talk about tech inclusion and how those programs are moving the needle towards change.
Yeah, most definitely. So at Change Catalyst, our goal is to create an inclusive and diverse and innovative tech ecosystem. You know, our tagline is empowering inclusive innovation. So that means inclusion means everybody. We focus on vets, people with hidden invisible disabilities in tech. That includes LGBTQIA communities. That includes white people. That includes allies. That includes, you know, of course, the African American sisters, Latinos, Asians. It's everybody. Because if we look at movements where change really happened, it happened when it was an inclusive movement and it wasn't one party. Now, it doesn't mean it does not mean I don't support Black communities and other communities, like we need our own community to do our own thing too.
Yeah.
But for Change Council, we look at it from a holistic viewpoint. What we offer as a company is we do consulting and training and workshops on creating inclusive cultures. We host the Tech Inclusion Conference, Career Fair, and Startup Showcase. We have a Startup Fellows Program for underrepresented entrepreneurs. And we also have some online material, learning material as well around creating inclusive tech ecosystem tech hubs. So that's what we do. And for 2017, we're actually traveling across the country, really traveling across the world, hosting 15 events around tech inclusion. 4 of those are conferences, and the rest of them are more smaller forums where we convene with local community partners in different cities and have roundtable discussions and panels and fireside chats and solo talks on what is happening at local community around creating inclusive culture.
Excellent. And can you tell us a little bit about, some of the data, if you keep data on how many people are actually, kind of landing jobs via your events, and kind of tell us a little bit about, that data and kind of what it shows.
Yeah. Yes. So here's the good data, and here's the wish we had more data response.
Okay.
The good data is that since we started this in 2015, the tech companies' presence has increased because of the conversation, because of the need, because of partnerships and the impact we're making. For example, let's talk about 2015, our first Tech Inclusion Conference and Career Fair. We had 15 companies and around 600 people.
Right.
No, that's not right. We had 25 companies and 600 people come through. We sold out Career Fair in 2015. In 2016, we went to New York. We had, I believe, about 20 companies and 500 people. And in 2017, and also in 2016, in San Francisco, we had 55 tech companies, and we had over 2,000 people come to our Career Fair.
Nice.
And this year so far, we have done career fairs in New York and Seattle. Each one has averaged over 300 to 500 attendees. And this year for San Francisco, we spent another over 2,000 individuals come to our career fair. And so I wish I could tell you on this podcast that, okay, at each event, we know for a fact that 20 people, 50 people have been hired for each one event.
Right.
I can't tell you that. The reason I can't tell you that is because we survey the hell out of our attendees. We email them, have you got a job? Have you been interviewed? How many follow-up interviews have you had? Have you heard back from a recruiter?
Right.
And some people will give us that data, and some people won't. It's hard to get that data, and we can't force people to give us answers. At the same time, we also email the recruiters, the companies who we partner with. Tell us how many people you interviewed, how many people you met and you talked to at the conference, how many people you got hired. And I've known at least 10 people have got hired over the past couple of years. I know that.
Right.
I wish I could say it was 50. I wish I could say it was 100. I wish I could say it was 1,000.
Right.
But we don't get that data. And also because there's a disconnect between we may work with one diverse inclusive partner or a hiring manager or recruiter or company at a particular company, but they send a different staff to manage and tell you about at the career fair.
Gotcha.
And you would think with all these tech companies that it would be easy to track this data, just give us the data.
Right.
But no. But it's also just aligns with what we also been learning about this diversity inclusion work around the tech industry when we talk about where it aligns with why there's only mostly an average 2% Black, 1% Latino, maybe 11 to 15% women. It aligns with the why. And the why is that because there's a broken process in the tech industry and their hiring and recruiting funnel.
Right.
It's a broken system. They're pattern matching the hell out of it. They have recruiters trying to meet these requirements and these standards that are being set by other individuals who are basically pattern matching and through the process. So it's a broken system.
And that kind of leads me to my next question here. Like, how are these larger companies are still kind of giving us the same old saying that there's a pipeline issue. How has tech inclusion, or has tech inclusion seen a shift in that narrative, or kind of what are you seeing from these companies now?
Yeah, great question. So yes, most definitely I've seen a shift in most companies on that narrative. That's the pipeline problem. Still hearing it from a couple. Nothing going to that. You all know who they are. I'll leave it at that. But there has been a shift, right? And the shift has been happening not because just of change, cows, and tech inclusion, but shift has been happening because of everybody, like you, other consultants, other groups, other organizations that's focused on whether it's increasing just women or LGBT or Black people. It's all these groups. There's all these platforms, all these other companies, JobWell, other role models, other speakers, other people who are speaking up about harassment in the workplace. Our friends Leslie Miley, Erica Baker. It's all these amazing people who just call out the injustice happening in the company cultures. So there's changes happening.
Yeah.
But also, we made some mistakes, even how we doing it. We made some mistakes of how we are even having the conversation around the lack of diversity, around a narrative of 2% and the pipeline problem. We're talking about 2% and the pipeline problem, but we can't compare apple to oranges in terms of the whole ecosystem. Google has some 60,000 employees, 2%. Twitter has 3,000 employees. And Reddit has around 300 employees.
Right.
Those 2% are not the same, right? And so we can't categorize 2%, 1%, and we can't keep saying the same narrative. But yet, what else are we gonna go by? Because we just literally started having a real conversation only 4 years ago.
Right.
Right. So yes, some companies are changing the narrative around the pipeline conversation, but it's such a deep rooted individual issue.
Yeah.
That we have to start with our approach is not like we don't do unconscious bias training. We feel like that is a solution in the narrative, but that's not what we do. We do it as more of a mindset and a behavior change narrative. Because if we have individuals who are in positions of authority to look at other individuals who may be different from them to make decisions that they are qualified or not qualified for a job, we got to work on that individual, and we got to work on the company culture as a whole.
Yeah. And that leads me to another question. Does tech inclusion have a kind of a published list of best practices that are being promoted to companies at these tech inclusion events? So you talk about these conversations that you're having as far as changing behavior and things like that. Do you have a list of best practices that kind of just a list to say, hey, these are some of the things that you need to do? Not necessarily in depth, but maybe a kind of a bullet pointed list for companies. Is that something that you offer?
We have some on our website. Yeah, we have some on our website. If you go to changecast.co, we have as a box set of toolkits, and it's focused on creating an inclusive tech ecosystem. We have a video series that we developed earlier this year with Google and Google's Women Tech Makers program, right, around creating inclusive tech hubs. We also have a toolkit around creating inclusive events, because it's something that we do well. And then we're a team of only 5, and with several, about another 5 or 6 volunteers part-time. And one of the things about the work we do is that we know we don't have all the answers. And we do our best to convene and curate a lot of smart people and put them on stage at Tech Inclusion events. People who are sometimes first-time conference speakers, people who have been doing this work for years but never had a chance to tell their story. And so there's a lot of videos on our ChangeCast video channel from most of, I want to say all our previous conferences that has a lot of major content and best practices and tools that people can implement and use as well. In a blog.
Excellent. So people, if you're listening, if you're listening to this podcast and you're wondering, kind of where do I start, kind of what are some of the best practices? You say changecatalyst.co? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Yeah. Head over there. Check out the videos. Check out the blogs.
Techconclusion.co.
Techconclusion.co. Excellent. So got a couple more questions before we head out of here. So kind of how are companies? No, let me ask you this: what companies do you see? Companies in regions do you see that seem to be more inclusive and kind of more active on the hiring front for blacks in tech?
Yeah, really great question. I would say let's start over because if you look at communities, right? You look at places like Detroit, which is like 80% African American. One thing about Atlanta is I feel like Atlanta is 95%. Sorry, Atlanta, I don't have the data, but Detroit, we're going to Atlanta later this year for a Tech Inclusion Forum, but we already been to Detroit, and so I know Detroit 80% black. And so we was in Detroit, in the Detroit community, and they're in Detroit black people, our people were like, hey, we're not the minority here. It was quite frank that we are not the minority. We are the majority. We 80% black.
Yeah. Right?
But here's the caveat, though. And still, in an 80% black community, the tech industry in Detroit numbers are even no better than it is in San Francisco, where it's only, I believe, 4 to 6% black population. Right? Think about that. And most of the tech companies are in Ann Arbor, about 30 minutes away from downtown Detroit. But now it's moving into downtown Detroit. It's like gentrification happening everywhere, right? In all the cities.
Yep.
So it's like black people in Detroit, we're here. So are you going to hire us? And so when I think about what companies are really focused on, hiring black people or hiring underrepresented candidates or minority candidates, most, I don't want to give out a particular company name, but most will say that, yes, we're inclusive. We want to hire diverse talent. We want to hire, the best people. We want to hire good people. That's what they would say. We want to hire qualified candidates. I would say a lot of companies still need to change their hiring recruitment process,
right?
To do better, right? And because it's way easier if you're a small company, small startup. There's some companies they're trying to do better, but once you get up to 500, 1,000, 1,500 employees in the tech industry, what I've constantly seen is what I've constantly seen is they start good when they're small, but then as they grow, they continue to go back to the same norm in the process that the regular technicians doing from an exclusive hiring process. And here's the why. Because as the companies grow, they start recruiting more senior individuals, senior people to join a company with more experience. But as we know, that hasn't been us. Right? Because we haven't been getting the jobs. And good people, and not good, but more experienced African-American talent are highly sought-off individuals who are in great positions, mostly at Google and Facebook and some of the other senior companies. And it's going to take a lot for them to leave. Yeah. And so again, I would say we got to look at our hiring process. All tech companies. I don't care where you're located at. Atlanta, Detroit, Portland, Seattle, Chicago, here in the Bay Area. Everyone could be doing better.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen I think it's something on Facebook that you posted about being intentional, right? Like the people up top, people are hiring. They need to be intentional when it comes to diversity and inclusion in tech.
Yeah. Or promote who you have, right?
Yeah.
Like why is it difficult? Like work at one company and they're like, we're looking for senior execs. We're looking for some senior, underrepresented people to be in some roles. And I'm looking around like, why can't you put a the word escape me, an employee promotion process? That's not the right HR term.
Yeah.
But why can't you put the right promotion process in your organization for that fast track that individual's career?
Yep.
So they can be in a manager or executive position in 6 months.
Definitely.
Especially if you can't compete with the salary and the bonuses from other tech companies. Because now, at least for us, there is a little bit of leverage and leeway that you don't want to lose your 2%. So you at least want to keep your 2%. So at least there's a little bit of leverage for us now in the narrative and the conversation.
Yes. So how do we hold these people accountable? How do we hold companies accountable beyond kind of having the diversity and inclusion head and section of the website devoted to diversity and inclusion? What else can we do to hold these companies accountable?
Yeah, great question, and it makes me think of two quick things. And I'm trying to answer your question. One is that, and I hope this is relevant to the conversation. One is that I strongly believe we need to be more supportive of head of diversity and inclusion officers at these tech companies. I do sense, and it makes me sad, I do sense a sense of bias especially from our people towards underrepresented individuals in these roles as head of diversity and inclusion officers. I don't know why. I have some assumptions why. I hope I'm wrong, but we had to think about, like, I don't like tokenism better than the next person.
Right.
I know for a fact that one person can't speak for a race or a gender. We can't do that. You can't do that. That's not who we are. We can't do that.
Right.
But at the same time, if a tech company employs a head of diversity and inclusion officer, that person, I'm sure, is well aware of their responsibilities and impact that they're having at that company.
Right.
And they also well aware of how they can be a role model and a face and a voice to open doors for us. And they are aware of the impact they can make in terms of hiring and the challenge they have to educate people who may not look like them.
Mm-hmm.
So if that is phase one, we need to support them. And part of their job is to hold the company responsible and accountable. Part of their job is to help make it right or help make it better. Right? So that's one. And two is aligned with the question. I am not a fan of public shaming, but I am supportive of calling out injustice when needed.
Yeah, and
there's a thin line there. There's a thin line.
Yeah, it's two different things, but it's definitely.
Yeah, there's a thin line. There's a thin line. Like when stuff is wrong, and everybody has been guilty. Every human has been guilty of not speaking up when they should have been speaking up, myself included. We have to speak up when there's injustice.
Yeah.
But there's a way of doing it that can be impactful and effective. And I'm not telling anybody to change their way. I'm saying before you do anything.
Yeah, think about it.
Think about it and ask yourself why, and is this what's best? Right? And so the whole people are accountable. I don't have a direct answer like this is what we ought to do to hold people accountable, because every situation is different. Every company culture is different. Every interaction is different.
Yeah.
I do believe it's good for tech companies to report their numbers, to put out an annual report. I think it's best for tech companies to do it at the right time. Just because everybody's doing it, I mean, we have to do it. But do it at the right time. But I do believe it's part of the solution. Hold people accountable. I think hiring a head of diversity inclusion officer is a great thing. Hiring someone who's focused on people and culture. Talking about a lot of startups and early stage startups. They don't have employee handbooks and in HR. People need to educate themselves and learn. But at the end of the day, I do believe that just call out injustice when we see it in the right way.
Yeah, I agree. And I want to chime in a little bit on what you were saying about, diversity in tech, or diversity and inclusion officers, or people that work in those capacities. And one of the things that I think that could, and this is just my opinion. This is not based on any factual data or anything like that, but this is just kind of from running Blacks in Technology for a number of years and seeing other organizations such as yours, such as organizations like Black Girls Code, Code 2040, a bunch of those organizations, and hearing from the community. I think one thing that I've noticed is there is an inherent lack of trust when it comes from some of these bigger companies, right? And what their intentions are and what their motivations are behind it, right? So you see these big companies, capitalism is rules everything, right? And you see someone promote somebody to, or maybe even bring in somebody, hire somebody to be their diversity and inclusion. I'm not going to name any names, but something like that was recently done. And so they're looking at it from, is this a money play, right? Are you trying to basically come up off of our community? Because you know how you are looking right now, what your standing is with underrepresented groups, right? So that's one thing. That's the whole trust issue, right? And so the other part of that is that what I see, and this is from my dealings with other companies and organizations, is that some of them want to try and solve this on their own, right? Like, and what I mean by on their own, I'm not saying they're trying to put everything on their back, but they want to do it outside of another organization who's already gained that trust, right? So Blacks in Technology, for instance, we've already gained that trust of our community. We have avid community members, followers who trust what we say, who trust what we do, because we built up that trust over a number of years. Now, to me, it would be more beneficial as a company, for you as a company, to trust us and help us, as opposed to you trying to do it on your own when people do not trust you, even if it's something that is involving, diversity and inclusion, right? They might not trust. What's your play? What angle are you trying to take on this? Whereas if you say, hey, Blacks in Technology, what do you need? How can we help you? Right? How can we help your organization? I think that would be a better play for some of these organizations that might, that can kind of mitigate just a little bit of that if not a lot of that trust, that distrust or mistrust, I should say. So that's kind of what I wanted to add on.
No, 100%. No, I agree with you 100%. Unfortunately, we deal with egos and personalities and mindsets, and it's not everybody. It's not everybody. Everyone has an ego. Everyone has different personality. One thing I love our partners that we work with. I don't love all of them, but I like our partners we work with.
Right.
Some of my partners they have made some grave mistakes, and someone have not. Someone has been some of the best advocates and partners we could ever have. We wouldn't even be sustaining as a company without them. Yeah. I will say though that you're right in terms of companies need to value the community that we've created. Yeah. And the trust we have. Just because you haven't raised $3 million and not employed 200 employees and don't have offices in 5 cities across the world doesn't mean you don't know what to do what's best for your community.
Right.
And part of the biggest problem I've seen is that individuals who often don't have a relationship with these communities or with us like they should, or disconnected, like you said, from our communities, is that they have a job to do. They focus on that job. They know how to do that job really well. And they interact with some other people who are amazing individuals. But don't look at us different just because we focus on a particular vertical niche or we just talk about black people.
Right.
You need to value us the same way you value every other individual, every other company, every partnership. And that is a problem in the perspective of value.
Yeah.
And I don't like to use the word hate, but that bothers me to my core. And I deal with it. We deal with it. We did a Tech Inclusion conference. Like the first year, we had 150 speakers. We sold out the venue. And people were telling us our ticket price was too high because it was $99. And we had, if there was a women's conference with 500,000 speakers, and we can get the same, trust me, we can get the same speakers as almost any tech conference in the world. We're trying to get Michelle Obama. And we get same tech speakers.
Yeah.
And their conference tickets may be $600. And it's sold out. I seen a conference in San Francisco, had some of my colleagues on a conference. And at least they're smart. They put the black people first so we can't call out that there's no black people speaking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're charging $1,500. $1,500 for a conference ticket.
Yep.
And so, and it's not just tech companies. This is even the old people. It's like, we have to put value on it, right? I will give, if you email me and say you want a free ticket to Tech Inclusion, I will give you a free ticket to Tech Inclusion in any city. Because we know what it's like to be the only one in our tech conference. We know like not having, I know it's like not having a voice.
Yeah.
You email me and say, I want a free ticket, you got it.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
But don't tell me that my value that I'm doing, the work we're doing is not just as important and not as valuable as anybody else. And we having the same conversation with the same people. And we trying to have a bigger impact. We did a whole workshop last year around how to become a VC. You want to become an investor? We can teach you that. You want to raise seed capital? We can talk about that. You want to talk about product, marketing, engineering? You want to talk about that? But we also want to talk about culture. We also want to talk about people. We also talk about diversity.
Right.
Oh, just because we're talking about that, it's got to be free and cheap? No. Hey, I got it, man. I've been talking too much, man. I got to talk too much. Got to run. It's been great.
Hey.
It's been awesome, man. It's been fun. It's been fun.
You're dropping jewels, man. So I appreciate it. But tell us what's next for tech. What's next for you? What's next for Tech Inclusion?
We still have ambitions and goals to raise a fund, but not a traditional capitalist venture capital fund, because we want to support still early stage entrepreneurs. That's our goal. But we also want to continue to have educational impact from behavior change and culture change with tech companies across the world. And so we can continue to travel to different cities. You visit techinclusion.co right now to see the 14, 15 different cities we visited in 2017. We're going to add one or two more, as if we were not crazy enough already. But we're going to continue to scale that and look at creating some online course material and continue learnings for people who want to do this work.
Excellent. And how can people follow you? How can people contact you? How can people, what's the website for, I know we said it again, but if you could restate that for Tech Inclusion, Change Catalyst.
Yeah, changecatalyst.co, techinclusion.co. Just read, everything's there, how to get in contact with us. And I like to say, I've been saying it for years, I'm not hard to find. I may take a while for me to get back to you, but I'm not hard to find. Just at Wayne Sutton. I'm on any social network, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Snapchat. I don't use Snapchat that much, but I'm there. But yeah.
Excellent. Wayne, I want to thank you for, taking time out tonight, joining us, man. It was an excellent conversation. Appreciate all the work that you do. Much respect to everything that you've done, and best of luck to you and everything that you do in the future.
Thanks, Greg, and hats off to you too, man. Like really, really, can't say enough about the work you're doing, and you continue to put the work in and take care of yourself too, as do the podcast and manage the community. I know it's not easy, but hats off, man. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, man. You take care.
All right, you too. Thanks, Greg. All right.
And that is it for this episode. Man, what an episode. That was great. I really appreciate Wayne's time as a guest. And I want to thank our Wayne Sutton for coming on. I want to thank everyone for listening in. And tune in next time. Check out our website, blacksandtechnology.net. Join us on Slack as well. And like I always say, tech yourself before you wreck yourself. Take care.
Blacks in Technology.
Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology.